Hello and welcome back. Episode 14 of the Full Program Golf Podcast with me, Josh Conlon, and as always, with Stevie McAvoy. We've got to do a bit of a Ryder Cup review, haven't we? So we're going to do exactly that. And then we'll be looking forward into the Alfred Dunhill. Let's get into it. Steve-O.
Joshy, how are you?
How are you?
I'm not too bad. It was a very, very big week of sports viewing last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? You know, I know I'm not into my my American sports, but I understand that was a big week. The Premier League had a lot of action. Sheffield Wednesday picked up some points. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then obviously we're here to talk about the Ryder Cup, so a few bits have happened.
Yeah, it's. I have to say though, just a nod to a bit of somber to kick us off. I think I posted on our Instagram the other day. Now the number of days away from the Masters, from the PGA, from the US Open, from the Open, and from the next Ryder Cup, that counts as looking pretty thick at the moment.
It's the worst time, isn't it? You know, we're just looking at longer nights, looking at the weather's coming in. You know, I'm sat back up north today, which is nice to get a bit of break, bit of family time, but it's noticeably colder. You can tell it's autumn, and we've got it for, well, maybe not you, but we've got it here for a good 4 or 5 months, haven't we?
Yes, I think by the time it gets to October, the leaves are starting to go. Everyone raves about full autumn golf wherever you are in the world. For me, I'm a spring-summer guy. Like, I don't really get the autumn thing. I think the autumn is just, reminding you that it's about to be horrible for the next 4 or 5 months.
Couldn't agree more. Pure summer vibes. I think it's like East Coast America, though, isn't it? The fall with the pumpkin spice lattes and all that sort of stuff. It's because, the summer's actually too hot to be playing golf in many ways. The winters are horrendous, but that fall is kind of our summer weather. We just get longer nights. So I'd say it's probably comparative in that state, which is why they go on about it. But yeah, for us, it's certainly this side of the Atlantic. It's just the summer.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but as I said, we're here to talk about the Ryder Cup, and thankfully, it didn't look like it was in doubt for the first 2 days, and then for about 5 hours on the Sunday, it was very much in doubt. But a win for Europe, away from home. Rory McIlroy called his shot in Rome, and the boys delivered. Got to feel good about that.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? You know, just to, I guess, not silence the crowd in the end, given the Sunday. But actually, yeah, we've watched so many, certainly away Ryder Cups where, and especially the last one, Whistling Straits, it was flip reversed. You know, every time, the US are up in every game. You're scrambling for a half. Even the morning session when we were 2-2, like for a period of time, I know we went on to win that session 3-1 on the Friday morning. It was almost like, great, brilliant. Oh, take the half, get out of there. Like, let's start with something on the board. I don't think anyone saw. I know it was 15-13 in the end, but I don't think anyone saw the domination from Europe over those first 2 days. And it was so good. The fans were shell-shocked. Keegan Bradley's eyes were getting wider and wider, and he was pacing faster and faster. Oh, just inject it.
Yeah, it was important. I think we spoke about it. I mean, getting in there, and the whole crowd situation played out quite strangely, I thought, because, it was all about getting in there, silencing them early. But we played so well and did such a good job producing the results that would, in our minds, silence them. They almost got louder again, but in a nasty way, which obviously ended up being quite a big talking point throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I think actually McIlroy summed it up really well. Even on Sunday when he played Scheffler, there wasn't a lot of "let's go Scheffler." It was just pure hate at McIlroy.
Rory.
But I do think that that's part of Bradley and his team hamming up, oh yeah, but the New Yorkers, they're going to bring a great atmosphere. They're so gobby. It's going to be great. And you get thick people, which the majority of that group clearly were, just deciding, yeah, we're going to play up to the bill that we are, which is, yeah, we're going to give him stick. We're going to make it hell. And they just got it wrong. They were a joke. The MC on the first tee, embarrassing.
What an absolute shocker that is.
It has to be. That has to have been chosen by Keegan Bradley and his team. You don't just end up on the first tee by chance. I mean, they even went down to being able to ensure that they had a flag for each of their groups on the Friday morning. Maybe actually just don't pick the 132nd worst pairing and don't give it a flag. You might get a point. How's about that?
Yeah, we'll dive into the Morikawa Harris English pairing, but what I just want to say on that that comedian that ended up doing the FU Rory chant, which I said was an absolute disgrace, is the first half of that video, if you watched it, was her trying to coordinate these chants with the crowd, which were just completely falling flat on their feet. The American crowd cannot do anything beyond USA, USA, USA. Like there's no bandwidth beyond that. And so whatever they were trying to do was rubbish. And so she just resorted to doing the FU Rory. And I just thought the whole thing was an absolute car crash. And I mean, it's just the kind of thing that would never happen within Team Europe.
And it wouldn't happen in Europe. I know the Keegan Bradley tried to say, there was some comments in Rome. Bollocks. The PJ of America, wow, he was a complete joke. And unfortunately, he sets the tone because he is the chairman of the PJ of America. So if he thinks almost it's acceptable, then of course everyone in that organization are going to think it's okay and acceptable to do that. His speech when we won, when they handed him the mic, he just went, "Congratulations to Team Europe for retaining the trophy." Retaining? We didn't retain. We won. And actually, on the Sky commentary that I was listening to, Nick Doherty stepped in and he went, "I actually think the word you're looking for is win." And he then went on to say in a separate interview that the same abuse was actually handled by the US team in Rome. It's just complete dross.
Yeah, a note on him. Nothing annoys me more than when you're kind of looking at someone who is playing just the kind of the corporate bods, and he's got a smile from ear to ear, even though he knows the house behind him is burning down.
Yeah.
He got it so wrong. The PGA of America's involvement in this Ryder Cup was embarrassing. And for him to stand there in, I think, the second interview that you're referring to, which was just a one-on-one, this is post-presentation, saying, I didn't hear that much of it, or, I'm sure there was abuse in Rome. I mean, get out under that New York members club rock that you're sat under and open your eyes to what's going on. I mean, he just got it so wrong. You wouldn't trust a man like that as far as you could throw him. And if he doesn't stand down, then I think that just sums up everything that's wrong with that organisation.
Yeah, he has to go. He has to go. They didn't make a correct decision. From appointing Bradley as captain, I think Bradley would actually be a really good captain when it's his time. Bradley would have been an asset on that course. You think to Cam Young, from the area, played the course a lot, was one of the standout performances for Team USA, a real shining light, and actually
100%.
will come on to MVPs and things like that. He's certainly in that mixer, certainly for the US side. Bradley has played Bethpage a new unbelievable amount of times. He's from the Northeast. I know he's not from New York, but he went there for college, I believe, around very close. He would have been a phenomenal asset on the golf course. Now, he made the right decision in that he couldn't be a playing captain. There are just too many responsibilities. Yeah. It wasn't his time to be captain. He was 37 when appointed. 39 when it happened, world number 12, which, yeah, you can't cater to that, but he was still in the equation when he was given the captaincy. He should have been in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are other people ahead of him, and Bradley would have done a better job further down the line than the job he ended up doing and the performance he could have brought on the pitch.
Yeah, I think Bradley was going to get absolutely pinned to the cross if we'd have smashed them on Sunday. And so for that reason, I'm actually glad there was a little bit of a comeback, because I don't think Bradley's been, in the grand scheme of US captains over the last decade, that bad. I think he just ran into a buzzsaw with the kind of continuity that Donald's brought from 2 years ago. The 11 players obviously coming back for Europe, and just really how well the European team was playing and the kind of momentum that team had. Like you said, I think Bradley was too early, and I really hope he gets another chance. One thing I will say to him is, I think credit to him how good his on-course performance has been within the last 12 months. The fact he was even in the conversation to be picked for the side, or picking himself for the side, because, as Donald said, Donald's literally given 4 years of his playing career away here to kind of captain this side. It is such a heavy load. And so when you look at where Bradley was, how old he was, how well he's been playing, the captaincy was too early. And that's just the fact. And I said, it was a shame. I think he was a good captain. I think he's got the ability to be a good captain in the future. And so I very much hope he gets a second opportunity. But it was just not going to be his week, playing against this team and Luke Donald as this captain.
Yeah, I agree. I agree in some ways. I think what's really been interesting is the reports coming out that the US played 27 holes, is it? A round and a half. Whereas the Europeans played 8 rounds of golf in the 10 days leading up to it on the golf course. I think whether that's true or not, who knows? But I think that's an interesting bit of information that's come out, because therefore they're not as prepared as they maybe should have been.
Yeah,
I think that is not just down to the captain, that's also down to players. I think it does mean more to the European team. But then further to that, and where I think Bradley did get it wrong as captain, was course setup was pathetic.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Statistically, it was the easiest golf course on the PGA Tour over the season in terms of scoring average when they played it.
Yeah.
I think what they turned it into was a putting comp around a golf course that is known as this hard. The sign certainly didn't live up to its expectation. It's meant to be a brute. It's meant to reward fairways. It's meant to reward ball striking. I don't understand why he turned it into a putting comp. We are statistically the longer drivers for the first time in Ryder Cup history. The European team is the longer hitting golf team than the US, which I thought was quite interesting. So if you make it just a driving game, you're already playing into our hands. And second to that, I think that he had an arrogance about him that he didn't feel he needed to mix up his pairings. I know we've alluded to that English Morikawa pairing. It's mental in the first instance, but okay, that's what you believe, cool. To then not pivot for the next morning and then not start moving your pairings around is an arrogance, or it's a stupidity. It's one or the other. It has to be looked at. You have to move away from. And when he then, in the interviews afterwards, tried to defend it, he was like, well, we had our plan, we have our plan, we're sticking to it. Well, sometimes when you're getting absolutely beat into the ground, you might have to change your plan, as you do in any other sport.
I mean, also, why was it the plan? I mean, we've just moved past the point, haven't we, where, like, why are Morikawa and Harris English playing together? Oh, they're really good friends off the course. Is that still that's a reason why you and I play together in the RMS Ryder Cup? It's not the reason why they should play together in the real, Beth Page Ryder Cup. So, like, why was it the plan?
It doesn't make sense. And, Morikawa arguably is the weakest player on that US team in terms of form. You look at whatever else you want to, but in terms of form, I think there might be some people that disagree with me, but I don't think it's a completely irrational thing that I've just said there. He is certainly in the equation of the person who's got the least form going into the Ryder Cup. He's gone through 5 caddies this year, so he's clearly looking for something. Why foursomes? If you need to play someone who's struggling, surely you put them 4-ball, you give them their own ball, and you try and put them with a Scheffler or somebody else. Put them with an English if you really want to just throw them both to the Lions again. But surely you give him the ability to find his game with his own ball. Now, I know we're talking about a world's top 20 player, so you could probably laugh at me as well and say, well, come on, he's better than that.
Yeah.
He was already a questionable pick, let alone then put him in foursomes with someone he shouldn't be playing with.
So interesting. On the Morikawa point, I agree with you. I think he was the weakest player on the US team this year. Would I have picked him? Probably yes, just because of his major championship pedigree. But I think he would have been my envelope man. However, of that team, I don't think Morikawa would have sat well with being the envelope man. Does that make sense? I think Harris English would have been told that news. He'd have been disappointed, but he's quite a stand-up bloke. He'd have been like, I get it. I understand. It had to be someone, go Team USA kind of vibe. I think Morikawa's got it in him to be a miserable so-and-so. And I think he would have been incredibly bad vibes if he'd have ended up being the envelope man, which I think he should have been. And then kind of further to that, I heard an analysis and it was just like Morikawa, whilst he struggled this year, his iron play is still top 5, top 10 in the world. It's kind of the putting that's letting him down. He's not driven it as well. Why is he not paired with an absolute bomber who can putt? Because that ultimately would then play, if you want to play Morikawa and foursomes, yes, fine, get it, whatever. But someone literally raised that point, and I think it was the No Laying Up podcast. They were just like, he should have literally been paired with Bryson. I don't know, someone who just gets him miles down there. He then can have his irons in and then go from there. So yeah, the Morikawa Harris English thing was bizarre. Why they put him out again, that 100% is something Bradley, I'm sure, will go back and change. And then just to get back onto the course setup, I heard something and it was just it's easy for us to say now that they've lost, being like, oh, Bradley, he messed up the course setup. I can only imagine the thinking was that we saw what momentum did on Sunday, and Bradley probably thought, if we can just get off to the hot start and make the birdies, get the crowd super loud, then that will kind of carry us through the week. But unfortunately, as we saw, the Europeans just made more birdies on those first 2 days, and they were pretty much out of it ahead of Sunday. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. But yeah, strange decisions, and I'm sure they're the ones that Bradley looked back at. I know in the press conference he was quite candid about kind of the mistakes he made, which I thought was good. Because everyone knew there were mistakes, and it wasn't just a case of Europe just played better.
Yeah, and I think there also has to be, we've spoken about the Morikawa English pairing. There is another pairing that has to be mentioned, that if you put your world number 1, Scotty Scheffler, with the world number 3, Russell Henley, which that's a different conversation. Oh my word. Russell Henley's world number 3.
Russell Henley's world number 3?
He's world number 3, yeah. Mental.
I think he must have slipped $20 to someone doing the rankings or something. How on earth does that happen?
Don't know how he's world number 3. I know he's had a good year, won the Arnold Palmer, and he's a cash machine for sure. But I don't know how he's world number 3. For them to be going out and play as poorly as they did, but then further to that, the stats suggested that the better putter needed to play off the evens. It was something like that. And Henley teed off the first. And Henley is statistically the best, if not one of the best putters on tour. Mm-hmm. And that's why they flipped their order the second time round. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, the flip is, that is criminal.
That just, again, shows a lack of preparation.
Mm-hmm.
It just it defies logic that is something that they are doing in the Ryder Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't go to changing tactics, changing your plan because you're getting beat. That's just a lack of prep.
Yeah, I agree. And then, I mean, just to cap off pairing stuff as well, I really did enjoy how they threw the Hail Mary out of Scheffler and DeChambeau as well. I thought it was very akin to, do you remember when they put Woods and Mickelson out together and Montgomery and Harrington took them down? And it was, it's just like, sod it.
They got the rosy steam train, didn't they?
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. I think that might segue us quite nicely. Just want to do a couple of FPG Ryder Cup awards, if that's all right. So, who is your MVP for the week?
It's a great question, and for me, I'm gonna answer for both sides, if I may, and then I'm gonna have an ultimate MVP that will come out of the two that I say,
and maybe a couple of options, just because I know there's quite a few players that played well. So just kind of who falls into your thinking, and then your ultimate would be fantastic.
So I think it's quicker and easier to do it on the American team because, for obvious reason, I think if you're putting it down to a final, you're looking at Cam Young, who turned up, was fantastic, carried JT in his in the afternoon four balls on Friday. I know JT came in, but like he was the star in that two ball for that. I know they lost the next day, but then was able to clinch that first point against Justin Rose on Sunday. Huge. It was a great match. I didn't see Rose getting back into it, certainly not when he knocked it into the tent and Keegan Bradley went marching over and demanded the drop, stayed where it was and all that. So I think for the American team, Cam Young, certainly as a rookie as well, would be my MVP for the Team USA. And then my thinking for Team Europe, I think Justin Rose should get a call out. I think he was brilliant. The putty hold on top of Ben Griffin, the round of golf he played against DeChambeau and Scheffler. He's a bit older, so he's not going to play enough sessions to be a top point scorer, because really you're going to have people who are playing 4 or 5 sessions. He played 3. I think if Rose had won on Sunday, he'd have been my MVP. Obviously, he'd have been 100%, so maybe even if he halved. But
sorry, so I just want to jump on that. A moment that I think people are forgetting amongst everything that happened was that putt that he held on top of Ben Griffin. That was a big, that was a kind of moment where US would have potentially got a bit of steam, and immediately Rose crushed it. And I thought that was huge.
It was massive because at the time they were 1 down through 7, and that was they were 1 down through 6. That was the 7th, just before that par 3. So they would have gone 2 down through 7, which, there's still plenty of time to go. But we all know that the 18-hole matches are a sprint, and the stats that they were showing up and being down at the turn, how many percentage win games. It was a massive, massive moment. So I'd say he's certainly be a consideration. I think Jon Rahm, his team stats are a joke. As in when he'd until he lost on Saturday afternoon with Straka, who didn't turn up, even in the game before, didn't turn up.
Big vibes guy though,
huge vibes guy. What a great bloke. But hadn't turned up, and Rahm dragged them over the line Friday afternoon. They lost Saturday afternoon. It was his first loss in the team format of the Ryder Cup since 2018, which is just outrageous. Again, if he hadn't have been put to the cleaners by Schauffele, which I didn't see coming either, then he'd be in the mixer.
Just ran out of steam, didn't he, on the Sunday?
He did. He did indeed. For me, the MVP, and he's going to get the ultimate MVP, is again someone who's unbelievable in team golf. He lost his singles in Paris to be 4 for 5. He's done it again, lost his singles against Justin Thomas. So this year, Tommy Fleetwood, of course, is who we're talking about. I thought the difference was his putting. He holds some putts that you can see why he's the FedEx Cup champ, rather than why he had all these near misses beforehand. It was almost like the confidence that he'd gained from that flowed through him throughout the rest of the Ryder Cup. And again, I think he ran out of steam a little bit. Justin Thomas, a phenomenal singles player. He's won every single one of his singles now, which is really impressive in itself. I don't like him, but it's very impressive. So he, again, it would be a no-brainer if he'd not lost on the last, and I'm sure we'd have all had a much more comfortable 4 or 5 hours if Rose or Fleetwood had flipped one of those games instead. But I think it has to be Fleetwood for me. Rumbled on a little bit there, but I wanted to give my feelings. Keen to get your thoughts.
Yeah, no, like it, and feel a lot the same way. I think a lot of the guys, I mean, it really showed you, I think, how much effort Team Europe put into those first 2 days. And it looked like, especially with the lead we had, a lot of our players came out flat on the Sunday, and obviously the result kind of shows that. But I think the guys that are in the 5 sessions, so Rahm, Fleetwood, McIlroy, I'm not sure if there was a fourth, all struggled on the Sunday, and I think you could see kind of why.
One more call out, if I may. Sorry,
yeah,
one more call out that I've forgotten to call out, and I'd have been quick to have. I think his record suggests that if this wasn't a good Ryder Cup, there's no picks coming his way. Matt Fitzpatrick. I thought the golf that he played was unbelievable. I couldn't believe he'd been sat on Friday afternoon. And I know him and Oberg lost in the morning on Saturday morning, but I think you have to win when you're 5 up through 7. I don't care that DeChambeau threw some birdies at him. He bogeyed 14 and 17, the 2 par 3s with essentially 14 was a really poor shot, but 17 was essentially a 3-putt. I know statistically it wasn't, but you have to win that. So I think, again, if he'd won that, he'd have been in the mixer, but a great performance from him.
Yeah, I had kind of 2 honourable mentions to throw on top of yours. One of them was going to be Fitzpatrick. I think, he's come in with nothing short of a diabolical Ryder Cup record. He's been the lamb for a couple of years. And the way he came out and played on that Friday morning, I thought was just absolutely exceptional. And when you look at, again, like the kind of catalogue of big moments that happened, Fitzpatrick going out there and going, hey, I'm not a lamb. I'm actually one of the best players on this team. I was right to be picked, and have that 1 point Europe on that first session, I thought was absolutely class. And then my final mention, I think I agree with everything you said. I think Fleetwood really is the anchor. I mean, he's just such a good team player. I mean, if you wanted to play 4-ball or foursomes, he is just so good tee to green. And he just, I think, has a relaxing energy about him. Everyone that plays with him loves it. So Fleetwood is my MVP. But I am going to mention McIlroy. I think for the sheer level of abuse that he took through the week, for him to turn up, play well, deliver points, and I think absorb a lot of the pressure off the rest of the team, I think was fantastic. And just kind of on that, I heard multiple people say who were on the ground that the session where Lowry and McIlroy were out first, was that the Saturday afternoon?
Saturday afternoon, yeah.
Saturday afternoon. You picture this: you're viewing the Ryder Cup. It's a crap spectator sport because let's say you go. I don't know if there was a big grandstand on the 7th green, 8th tee box, wherever. I will make it up. The problem you've got with that is you go there first thing in the morning. You sit there and you're essentially waiting for 4 games to come through in the morning, which is kind of 10 minutes a piece, 4 times, and then you wait another however long, and then you get the same again, and that's your day done if you stay in one spot. And so people are getting themselves tanked up, tooled up, and they paid all this money, come all this way, and they want to have their bit of the action. And so when that first group especially comes through, they're hurling the abuse, they're doing this, that, and like I said, they're having their moment as spectators. And I got told that McIlroy and Lowry were going through and they were getting so much abuse and so much said to them that actually they were kind of taking the energy out of the crowd because they were expending so much on those two. And so actually by the time the rest of the games went through, it almost felt like the atmosphere had kind of softened and it wasn't as aggressive for the rest of the European team. So I don't think we can overlook how important Rory was, almost as like an abuse pinata for the week. And so for that, I just wanted to mention McIlroy.
Well, someone's always got to mention McIlroy, don't they? It's like having Paul McGinley on the podcast. He can't talk about anyone other than McIlroy. No, to be fair, he was brilliant. I thought he played great. And one of my favourite moments was watching his face and his anger at Shane Lowry on Friday afternoon when they got the half, because Lowry was just dross that afternoon. He played great after that, played great Saturday afternoon, played great in his singles, obviously hold that putt that we'll get onto. But I thought that was a really quite funny thing to view, just the anger just coming off him. As in, what the only thing you can do when it's your mate. If he wasn't as close with Lowry, I think he'd have had to hold it in a lot more than actually. He probably walked off and went, Shane, really? Like, probably a few more words than that, but really.
Yeah, Shane didn't have the best week, but obviously he held that putt on Sunday, and I think that was the only moment of joy that I kind of excreted during that viewing experience. Sunday was absolutely awful start to finish, and even after that moment and how excited I was, I immediately just turned to, oh my god, but this is only a retain, and we're still going to get sent to the wolves if we only retain from the position we were in. So it turned out, I was like, where's the winning point going to come from? And then at the end of it, you sit back and you go, God dear. 15-13 after all of that. But that segues us nicely off the MVP chat to a couple of big moments. You've mentioned a couple already, but just wanted to kind of do a roundup of the ones that kind of stood out for you. So I think we've had the Justin Rose putt on top of Ben Griffin. Obviously, the Lowry putt on Sunday was fantastic. That Rahm chip in, I'm going to add to the party. I don't know if there are any other ones that kind of really stood out for you.
I think from a US perspective, the two that stand out are back to back as well. Cam Young, Justin Thomas, to both hold those putts on 18 is serious bottle. Really, really top stuff. We hate to see it, but they are moments. They are phenomenal moments for the Ryder Cup, and they'd be things that you'd be talking about for years to come had even a retain happened. I think massive moment that we will get onto. The Hovland fist pump on 17 that's brought the envelope rule into play. That's a massive moment.
That was huge.
But I also think that, and we've alluded to it, the Oberg Fitzpatrick point against Henley Scheffler on the Friday morning that was almost a write-off. You look at the teams on the board, you go, okay, I feel good there, feel decent there. That was a game you went, we're losing that one from previous records, from world number 1 and 3. And I thought that it was a really big moment on the 15th green when Fitzpatrick rolled it down. I know he had 2 for it, but he rolled it down and it dropped. And I felt the emotion, the fist bump that came out of that was a real start of there's going to be something special to come. So I think that that's quite a big moment as well.
Yeah, I think a tweet that's aged really, really well is D-Rap tweeted, I think a week before the Friday. He was like, this time next week, Russell Henley and Scottie Scheffler will be 4 up with 5 to play, towards the back end of the first session. Crowd's going to be going mad. It's going to be the moments we live for. And so, it was good to see them lose on that first session. Well, you alluded to envelope rule. Any thoughts on that? Hov obviously hurt his neck after that momentous fist pump. Being talked about a lot. I don't know if you've got any particular opinion. I know Bradley complained about it, said the rule should be changed.
Start by saying I'm glad we got to 15. I'm glad it's not 14 and a half. I'm glad it's not 14. Now, I know that if that game's still out there and Harris English is leading, then that can flip other matches, of course it can. But on the cold light of day, we didn't win by a half. So if we'd have lost, if every other game had been the same, if he'd have lost, we still win. Fine. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that that's the case. Yes, as I say, it would have made changes in other games, would have been here and there. I felt good about Hovland English, by the way. I'd have felt pretty comfortable. But I felt good about Rahm, Schauffele. I can't believe Hatton only halved with Morikawa. We've talked about Morikawa before, but we felt good about a lot of games that obviously didn't come out. I actually agree that I think if you pull out for injury, that's on you. If you think at club level that when we play, if you have to pull out of a match that you've arranged, and we're talking the Ryder Cup being arranged, it's unlucky, it's unfortunate, and it's a real shame. But you don't get a half. You don't get to rearrange the date. Even we can't do that. You don't get a half if you have to pull out. I don't think that it's fair that it's a half, because realistically, what's stopping Donald on the night before, or any team leading going into Sunday, going, all 12 of them have just done the neck in the night, or they've got a bout of food poisoning. We're all going to just take the halves and win the event. Now, no one's going to do that, but the fact that a rule could do that, I don't know. I don't know if there is a rule saying there's only one envelope. We've not known about this envelope rule until the start of the week, and it's almost like fate. No one knew about it. Suddenly it got spoken about, and suddenly it's happened. It's quite interesting that that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't think it should have been the case. I'm glad we won. I think my next thought is, and this was something that I thought was quite interesting, how do you pick the guy in the envelope? And you've alluded to it with Morikawa probably not taking it so well. What's the reasons behind English? Because I was listening to an interview with McGinley after the Ryder Cup, and he said that the Europeans had picked their envelope player based on world rankings. Take the subjective element out of it, and just
which would have been who? Do you know?
That would have been John Rahm.
No,
I know, because I thought, that makes sense, and then I saw it was going to be Rahm because obviously Liv. That doesn't make any sense, but I get why
it have to be Højgaard, surely.
Surely not.
Do you not agree with that? As in,
what?
As in, Højgaard should have been our envelope.
Højgaard has to be in there.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, okay.
100%. Yeah, definitely. But it's quite interesting that was the way they were going to apparently do it. I'd be interested to see if that's actually true, or if that's just them playing that card because they don't really need to.
And I think there's an easy reason to explain the Højgaard thing. You just go, look, singles is the ultimate pressure right at the crunch end, and ultimately experience counts for a lot there. And so, like, we are going to put out the 11 most experienced guys.
Yeah, done. You're the only rookie.
Højgaard would have understood that.
You're the only rookie. The other 11, as you say, more experience, recent form, all of it.
So, I mean, just my thoughts on the envelope. So, apparently, the rule was introduced because the Ryder Cup, in its first form, was an exhibition, and obviously, it's become this thing which everyone cares about more than anything else. But like, it was just an exhibition, and so if you were having an exhibition which wasn't that competitive, which tends to be what exhibitions are, then I suppose you know, if you're injured and you're a pro, you wouldn't want to push it, and you would just say, look, I'm injured, and they would go, okay, fine, whatever, half. I do agree with you in the sense that probably isn't in line with what the modern Ryder Cup is, and so if they were to amend that rule, I think I'd probably be supportive of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Last couple of bits. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on Bryson, and I want to also tie it into that kind of weird scuffle that happened between 15 and 16. Bryson has obviously kind of reinvented himself with the kind of the YouTube, the live, and all of this as like the man of the people and blah, 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 blah. My biggest takeaway from the weekend is just like, when it's just like under pressure, tournament circumstances, he's just a bit of a weird cat. There were just a couple of different things that happened through the week. And I think there was one, I'm trying to think of exactly the details of it. I'm not sure of you, but like Scheffler and him were paired together, and he was just like off in his own little world, reading putts or whatever. And Scheffler shared this look with Ted Scott, who just kind of, they were both like, what is this guy doing? And then I have no idea what was said on that walk up. I saw something where I don't think this is true. It was like a imagine if kind of thing. But Tommy Fleetwood went, this is a bit harder than YouTube, isn't it, boy? When like that all happens. And then he started sounding off. But whatever was said, bit of a strange scuffle. Ted Scott got involved. He then, did you see the video he did with Francesco afterwards?
No.
So you have to go watch it, and anyone listening, they have to go watch it as well. So Ted Scott's obviously got super heated in the moment. Molinari has like given him the smallest brush just so he could get in between Ted and his players, just, you know, as a bodyguard essentially is what he was there for. And Ted is kind of kicked off as if Molinari's double hand pushed him. blah, 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 all in the moment. And so later that night, a video appears on Ted Scott's Instagram. Ted Scott, relatively active on Instagram, where he has basically got a down the camera shot going with Molinari stood next to him. Molinari looks like he is being held captive. And Ted Scott's just like, hey, it gets heated out there, but we're all friends. And Molinari's just sat there, just like nodding. And it's like one of those ones. It's like, Francesco, blink twice if you're in trouble. Oh dear. But I thought that was all quite good fun.
Yeah. It's a scuffle over nothing, isn't it? Yeah, I think Rose's, it's his turn to putt. They didn't like the way he said it's just bog off, basically. I think Rose was probably a bit rude as well. I love Rose. He's the boy. But he was probably just a bit aggressive with that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's called tension from both of them. It's a big game. It's pretty tight. It was just, I think it's nice that nothing more was made of it, and actually it was able to be pushed down. Scheffler gave Fleetwood Rose a hug afterwards, said, well done. It was nothing like the Cantlay McIlroy 18 with
I agree. Joe LaCava,
who was a complete tit and forever will just be seen as an idiot now. He's just an imbecile. Whereas they actually all dealt with it well, and it's a nice moment that we can talk about, but I don't think it boiled over too much.
No. Nice. I think
we've got to touch Stash.
That's a 4. I'll tell you what, that was right at the top of my list, and we've kind of jumped about all over the place. But Stash is a great point, and thank you very much for reminding me. What were your thoughts? I think we've got to review America and Europe. What were your thoughts and feelings? Obviously, America was Ralph Lauren, and the Europeans were Laura Piana.
So I'll start with the Americans. I thought the first top they came out in with the sort of hoops is just the most textbook US Ryder Cup top. Like every other year, obviously every Ryder Cup event, that a very small variation of that top comes out. It is just what they're doing. They're wearing that. So like that's whatever. Just cool. Like we've seen that before. Crack on. I like RLX as a brand.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't love the big USA, big flag on the hat, the navy one on the second day. I didn't think that. I thought it was a little bit over the top. I don't think you should have a big USA and flag. I think you should have the Ryder Cup logo and then either flag or USA. Make your decision. So I didn't love that. And then, I mean, the Sunday kit was decent. Like it was fine. I think it was very safe out of everything they did that wasn't safe. I thought that the kit was just a real safe play. Like, cool, we expect that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. RLX is a great brand. I think they would do well with just toning it all down a little bit. Like, I don't think subtle style comes into any of these kits whatsoever. Like you said, my biggest pet peeve was like, you don't need the flag and for it to say USA, and it says USA down the trouser, and and then the hats obviously as well. I think just dial it back a little bit. Like the red, white, and blue are very clear colours, and I think you can make really classy bits that just have a bit of detail taken out of them. I don't like a zippy polo.
No.
I'm a big button guy. I've never liked that when it comes to golf stuff, and so I can't remember if it was a Friday or a Saturday one. I had the zip. Didn't love that. So yeah, they were kind of my real thoughts on America's stuff. It was okay, pretty predictable, but I think just taking a slightly more subtle approach would have probably done them well.
Yeah, I agree. And just finishing off on that before moving to the European kit, for the viewers of Sky, what I didn't like as well was when they had, when the pairings get announced and they're in the studio and you've got like the 2v2, like looking at the camera with the heads and the eyes moving with the camera, which was really trippy and just mental. What I don't know if you noticed was actually like Justin Thomas, as an example, had white trousers on and Cam Young had black trousers on. They're wearing the same tops and the same hoodies in that particular picture. But I felt like that was also, because that's still been created as one group. They should have had a fully set team kit, even for those stills, which I thought was just a miss from them.
Yep.
But yeah, pretty safe. Maybe just tone it down a smidge.
Got it.
Moving
Europe?
on to the Europeans, because I feel like I've got contrasting opinions on a few of the kits. So I thought that the outfit on day one was really clean. I like the navy. I like the navy and the light blue with the navy cap. Like, I thought that was really nice, really clean. The rest of the stuff I thought was horrific. I hate the burnt orange. Where on earth has that come from as a European kit? Horrific. I don't like different colour hoops around things. So, yes, I like the navy light blue. I didn't like the hoops with it. And I didn't like the white top with the yellow and black and random bits all over the middle of it. I actually thought that this year's kit was probably the worst stuff for the last however many years you'd like to look back to. I thought they were trying it to be understated and nice. I just thought it was just crap colours, crap patterns. The collars were shocking. Why were they constantly riding up like this? Weird. I didn't like it at all. And for 750 quid for one of those polos, God, you'd have to be mental.
Yeah. I think really you've touched on a lot of points that I that Saturday colour went down pretty badly across socials and wherever else. I don't mind a hoop. I thought Sunday's top was okay. But yeah, my two kind of main points that I want to call out are the collars were crap. And I think I stuck it in a group chat and I felt quite validated by seeing quite a lot of people talking about it online. I think if you had all the buttons done up, the collar kind of had a bit more structure. But when people were having multiple buttons undone, the elastic, there was obviously a problem with the elastic, and the kind of humidity and everything was just making it warp is probably the best way to describe it. And so I thought they just looked cheap and crap. Yep. Which then brings me on to the next point of your £750 Apollo. That doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously, an aspect of these tournaments is making money. The merch tent is obviously a huge revenue driver. And for me, whilst we may not have loved the shirts this year, there will have been a huge number of people who would go to the golf on the Friday, have their viewing experience, and the item that they would like to buy is the shirt that their team wore on that day. I think that must be a pretty common kind of journey to walk. And so are we not just alienating a huge percentage of the customers by saying, oh, you like that Europe top today? Yeah, you can go get it in the merch tent, but it's $750, pounds, whatever it is. It actually doesn't even matter which currency it is because both are ridiculous. And so for me, like, that just doesn't make any sense. And I think Loro Piana is a very cool brand to have the team sponsored by. And I'm sure when you think about opening ceremony and the suits, and I think they decked out all the wives in nice kit as well. Cool, great, amazing. If I was in the team, I'd be buzzing about it. But I think just leaves you a bit disconnected from the kind of everyday man that's there supporting. And so for that, I had a bit of a gripe with it.
Yeah. The touches are nice. I liked, whilst actually I thought that the tops were horrendous for the Monday to Thursday as well. As in I liked they were from 87, from 95, from 04 and 12. I thought that was a really, really good touch that Donald and the team had put together. I still didn't like the tops, but I get why they were, because they were the iconic tops of those years. But yeah, I just thought it was a miss this year with kit, which I don't always feel, and I don't like to feel that way, because I like to look at my team and go, oh, yeah, we're looking good. We might not be playing good, but we're looking good. So I feel like Sheffield Wednesday every time.
Very good. All right. Well, I think that kind of closes the book on the Bethpage Ryder Cup. And then obviously we're ahead to Adair Manor. I did hear someone say, I know a couple of people that are looking to go, and I'm sure it'll be a fantastic venue and weekend. I don't think logistically Adair Manor is going to do that well with that number of people. And I saw quite a lot of stuff about the struggles of getting back into New York after the action had finished at Bethpage. And I can only imagine it's going to be even worse at Adair. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But certainly looking forward to it. It'd be great to get it back on Irish soil and hopefully another European win.
And will Tiger be there? Will he captain him? Who knows?
Well, I think McManus is going to try hard to get him to do it. I think Tiger really sees it as for his legacy, being a winning Ryder Cup captain is important. He's kind of ticked everything else off, obviously, with all the majors. I think he's a President's Cup winning captain. I think he wants to be a winning Ryder Cup captain. I don't think he'll commit until he thinks he's got the players to do it. And so I can't imagine that he'll say yes to that. One quick question before we move on to this week's golf. Who is your player of the year now that McIlroy's won a away Ryder Cup? So Masters, away Ryder Cup, players, etc., or Scotty Scheffler's two majors?
McIlroy didn't win an away Ryder Cup. Team Europe won an away Ryder Cup. It doesn't hold any significance to the individual player of the year. It's great, and I'm sure he will personally see it as a massive achievement year. That does not shift the needle on the player of the year. Like, it just doesn't. Is Sepp Straka suddenly now part of the conversation because he's won an away Ryder Cup? Like, bollocks. The player of the year is Scotty Scheffler. He's won 2 majors. He's won 6 events. He's the world number 1. He's got the lowest scoring average. He's been the best player. He's competed in every major just about. Yeah, McIlroy's completed his Grand Slam. And, he'll look back, I do genuinely think, as this will be his best year. As in, this is probably the way he's ticked off the most of what he wants. He's won the Irish Open, won an away Ryder Cup, he's won the Masters, completed his Grand Slam, won the Players. But Scheffler's won 2 majors and the rest. That is, take the emotion out of it, that is the player of the year.
Like it. A predictable opinion, but I like it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. All right, final stop of today. It's obviously the Alfred Dunhill links this week. Always a good week. Lots of celebrities. Now with the live players playing, actually a pretty meaty looking lineup, and obviously at the home of golf. What are your thoughts and feelings?
I think it's a brilliant tournament. It's always a great watch. Lucky enough to have played all 3 of the courses in Carnoustie, Kingsbarns and the Old Course, which I do think adds to your viewing enjoyment. You can see, and as we know, I've got an ability to remember every hole, so I could talk you through every single one of all 3 course holes sets. So I think it's a great watch. I hope they get decent weather, because it does just sometimes get a bit bleak. I remember last year, Hatton and Colsaerts had a great duel all the way right round on Sunday, and Hatton ended up pipping Colsaerts at the post there. I think it's got the fun element. I think it's a historic event. It's in great golf courses. And I just had a little nosy, because you're always interested, it's post Ryder Cup. Who's going to turn up? How are they going to play? Matt Fitzpatrick, we talked about how well he's playing, how well he's been playing, how well he played. He's 3 under through 6 at Carnoustie, which is typically the hardest course as well. So a good solid start, albeit leading is 8 under. And again, you mentioned the added factor of live players being there. I think that is a nice touch as well. I like that, and I think that's good for the DP World Tour as well.
I agree. I think DP World Tour letting them come and play has hugely elevated their top events now. You've got the Dustin Johnsons, the Brooks Koepkas, the Cam Smiths, like these huge names that you just wouldn't have seen. And as you said, I mean, what a set of golf courses. It's really, a phenomenal 3 there. We'll just add to it, kind of, talk about it being a great event and kind of all the stuff that goes around it. where I've been caddying over the summer, have met a lot of people that have played in it. And when you talk about stuff to shoot for and want to do in your life, getting up and playing in that would be absolutely phenomenal. G4 obviously throw a huge amount of money at the event. Our friend Stevie Shum is up there, and the stash box you get as a little player that everyone got. I don't know exactly what the bag's called, but have you seen the leather G4 bags? It's their kind of premium stand bag. All players get that, and then what they've done is Alfred Dunhill Links, kind of as a tournament, has got their own logo designed, which kind of incorporates elements of the RNA and other things into it. Really clean logo, and so that's all embroidered into the bags. Everyone got those bags, amongst other things. And then what I thought was a really nice touch is Johan Rupert, who is kind of the big chief that organizes it all. He throws a cocktail party, I believe, on the Tuesday night, which is kind of like the reveal party for the celebrities and the kind of VIPs to find out who they're played with. And so what happens is there's a huge board which is set behind a curtain, and everyone's there, you know, having their drinks, mingling, whatever. And then the moment comes and they drop the curtain, and then it kind of reveals like who you're playing with, what pro, etc. And I just thought, as a whole kind of experience with, I said, the personalized stash, which very much is the only way to get it is by playing in it. Being able to play those 3 unbelievable golf courses and the whole kind of theatre that goes into who you play with, the mingling, who else you meet. I would imagine it is just one of the all-time weeks if you ever get the invite.
Bucket list stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it. It's been one hell of a week, and do you know what? It's been one hell of a conversation. We've almost got a full hour there. Really enjoyed it. I don't know if you've got any final parting words, Josh, but I think we covered a lot of turf there.
Covered a lot. I think if America had won, this would be like a 20-minute podcast. So glad you're at one, so we could wax lyrical. But yeah, covered a lot. Pleasure as always, and great to be back.
Yeah, pleasure as always. We've got some exciting stuff coming up. Josh and I are playing some golf next week, which we're hopefully going to get a vlog together for, which will be fun. And as ever, please do follow us, like, subscribe. We are Full Program Golf on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'll see you next week, Josh.
Look forward to it.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.